Tonight, residents near College and Dovercourt say they are so fed up with the constant noise from a nearby demolition site, they're taking the company and the city to court.
The house shakes and you watch little clouds of plaster come down from the ceiling.
They say the vibrations are so strong it rattles glassware and knocks mirrors off their walls. Plus,
obviously, we just got a kick in the teeth.
A marijuana music festival in Vaughan gets axed when organizers realized no one in the audience could smoke up. And Vlad Guerrero Jr. tears up the record books at the MLB Home Run Derby. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Begin, though, with some breaking news from Hamilton. A woman is dead after a fire at an apartment complex tonight. Police are treating it as suspicious.
So approximately 9:20 this evening, Hamilton Fire received a report of a structure fire at the corner of Gage and Beach Road. On arrival, first arriving crews were met with a well-involved working structure fire on the second floor with heavy smoke and heavy flame. Initial crews were provided information that there were potentially people inside. So they immediately went into rapid search and rescue operations.
Now, a woman and two dogs were pulled from the home by firefighters. The woman was rushed to hospital. She had no vital signs and was pronounced dead at the hospital. Emergency crews also performed CPR on the two dogs, but they also did not survive. The Ontario Fire Marshal and Hamilton Police are investigating. And here in Toronto, residents near College and Dovercourt say it is unbearable. Noise and vibration from a demolition site rattling their homes and disrupting their lives. Now they are launching a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, all because of it. Lauren Pelly has the details.
The noise is incredible when you're in the house, and the objects shake.
Homeowner Renee Soderick says it's because of demolition that's been happening on and off since last fall at this College Street construction site right across the street from her West End home.
I feel like I'm under siege. It's bombardment. They start every day at 7:01 on the dot, so I wake up with this sense of dread and anticipation.
She says vibrations have broken objects and made ceiling lights fall out and caused her front porch to detach from the brick of her house.
It's been unrelenting. It's exhausting. I'm a wreck. It's supposed to be my home. I've paid for it. I pay tax dollars to live there, and I get no support from the city.
Both her family and a second set of neighbors have filed joint lawsuits against the city and multiple construction companies. Each statement of claim seeks $1.5 million in damages, totaling $3 million.
The vibrations during the demolition were quite severe. We were told there were all sorts of guidelines for this, but I don't think an earthquake in my house is something that is acceptable.
We work within the laws that are given, and construction is never easy.
The area's councillor defended the city's efforts to help, including requesting vibration monitors.
The data and the records shows that it is within the allowable vibration record.
This footage shows the pounding neighbors claim has been happening at the site, and a civil engineering expert says it's not unusual for this kind of pile driving to cause damage nearby.
Whether or not it causes a problem depends on the conditions of how much energy did you input, and it depends on the condition of the soil.
He also says companies can mitigate the impact.
Instead of driving a pile in, you could bore it in, and the boring creates less disturbance. But again, it may cost a lot more money to do that.
CBC Toronto tried to reach the site's developer through multiple avenues to ask some questions about the demolition work and get their reaction to the lawsuits, but we didn't get a response.
And then
Soderick has sent messages as well and says after months of noise and vibrations,
I want the city to intervene on behalf of the owners and renters up and down this street who have a right to live not under siege.
We took a look at the city's bylaws, and there is a bylaw for vibrations coming from construction sites like this one. But it even says on the city website that oftentimes those vibrations aren't enough to contravene city policies. We also asked city officials what this site is going to become. and we were told it's slated to become an affordable housing project. Now, neighbors say that they're not concerned about the project itself. They're just worried about the way it was handled by both the city and the developer. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, a driver is lucky to have walked away with only minor injuries tonight after his car crashed into a convenience store near Main and Danforth. It happened around 7:30 at a store in the Dawes Road and Roseware Avenue. Police say the driver, who was the only person in the vehicle, was briefly trapped inside by debris from the store. He was freed when fire crews arrived. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. And Peel police say a 24-year-old woman from London, Ontario, is Mississauga's latest murder victim. She was shot and killed outside a bar near Drew and Torbram early this morning.
Based on the time of day that we got this call, we can only surmise that events at this location were winding down, but we do believe there were some witnesses that have not had the opportunity to speak to our investigators, and we are urging them to come forward and do so we can, again, locate the person responsible for this.
The shooting happened around 3 a.m. at a plaza. Officers arrived to find the woman in the parking lot bleeding from a gunshot wound. She died at the scene. Police have not released any description of a possible suspect. They are still hoping to speak with anyone who was at the bar last night.
Gunshots just went off. I thought it was just fireworks. Next thing you know, I look outside, I see people running.
And 3 men are in hospital after an early morning shooting on Queen West. One of those people in life-threatening condition. The shooting happened around 2:30 in the morning near Queen and Ossington. Police are looking at whether the incident involved a bar in the area. They don't have any suspect information right now, but are asking the many businesses in the area to check their surveillance footage for evidence. Kelly Kennedy is here with her first look at the forecast. My first week back. I was away last week, an incredible week last week, and this week's shaping up pretty good as well.
It is shaping up pretty well again. So very nice. This is the kind of pattern you want to be in when it comes to summertime, especially if you're enjoying some time off. But we will see after today, kind of temperate. It was a nice day. We're going to find the temperature starting to warm up a little bit. That's why I have the fan there. But then you see I change it over to the air conditioner. That's for midweek, and that's just because that's when not only will the temperature be rising, but the humidity is going to start to come up Wednesday into Thursday. And our next best chance that we're probably going to see some scattered showers, that's into Thursday. Could be the odd thunderstorm in there as well. Unofficial daytime highs, and the thing to notice here is that some of the warmer air was actually into eastern Ontario than what we saw all the way back towards southwestern Ontario, but all around some comfortable readings with not too much moisture in the air. High pressure is what's in place. This is what I say is a really nice summertime pattern to get into. Even if I wind this forward all the way towards later in the day on Wednesday, still all we're talking about is a little bit of cloud cover moving in. However, it will be into Thursday, then that next system is going to approach, and that's why we get into a bit of instability there. No chance of that overnight tonight. Clear skies, 15 degrees for your overnight low, and tomorrow sunshine, 29, and feeling like the low 30s, but still pretty comfortable, just a bit warmer, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
As you saw on the National, Premier Ford is in Alberta for meetings with provincial premiers. At a press conference today, reporters asked Ford whether his former chief of staff was fired or resigned. Ford did not directly answer that question.
Dean French is no longer there. We changed our chief of staff. Jamie Wallace is our chief of staff. He's a great chief. I think the cabinet gets along quite well with him. So does the caucus. We're moving forward, and my goal here, is to focus on our economy.
You'll recall that Dean French abruptly left his job as Ford's top advisor more than 2 weeks ago after it first emerged that people given lucrative foreign postings were personally connected to him. Ford revoked those initial appointments, but since then it's emerged that other government appointees have connections to French. Plans for a new music festival in Vaughan are up in smoke tonight. The Journey Festival was supposed to be a celebration next month of music, art, and legal recreational marijuana. But it turns out there's a new bylaw in Vaughan that would prevent concert goers from being able to light up. Angelina King has the story.
It was billed as the first of its kind in Canada, a catalyst for cannabis culture, with music, art, food, beer, and of course, pot. The Journey Cannabis and Music Festival was supposed to be held on the weekend of August 23rd in Vaughan, but now it's cancelled.
The shock and dismay within the team, it just was so disheartening.
The festival was 9 months in the making, but back in May, the city of Vaughan passed a bylaw that prohibits smoking cannabis in public without medical documentation. Murray Millthorpe says organizers met with the city and even got positive feedback, but says they were never given a heads up the bylaw was in the works.
We're really surprised and we're disappointed. I can't express that enough and in nice words that how disheartened we are because of that. In a real, true partnership, Sharon, it's about openness and honesty. And obviously, we just got a kick in the teeth.
In a statement, the city of Vaughan says in part, no special event permits were applied for or issued for this event by the city of Vaughan. The smoking bylaw has been under development since 2018. The latest you can apply for a permit is 2 weeks before the event. The festival was supposed to be held here at Boyd Conservation Park in Vaughan. Organizers say they're now searching for a new venue for next year and are working to refund thousands of ticket holders like Betsy Kopis.
It just had a combination of everything, music, vendors, food. Nobody's having events like this, so I was shocked.
The music lineup was never announced. Cannabis wasn't going to be sold at the event. People had to bring their own.
It is legal, yet all of the municipalities are putting in these bylaws to restrict the notion of us being able to share, inform, and educate consumers.
He's confident that will happen at the first annual Journey Cannabis and Music Festival next year. Angelina King, CBC News, Vaughan.
About 150 seniors are being forced out of their homes since this seniors' care facility was sold out from under them.
It ripped the rug out from my mother's feet. I don't think she can take another big change.
I am 96 years old, and I thought I will be here to the end of my life.
And the city says there's not much they can do. I'm Ali Chiasson. That story coming up.
A former Domino's pizza delivery driver says he is still waiting to be paid thousands of dollars in lost wages and benefits. Last year, the driver filed a claim against the pizza franchise he worked for in Mississauga, and he won that case. But as far Morale tells us, because of a legal loophole, he may never see the rest of the money he's owed.
Juan Jose Lira Cervantes doesn't deliver pizzas for Domino's anymore. But more than a year later, he's still waiting to be paid what he's owed.
I feel frustrated that these companies can really do whatever they like. And meanwhile, employees like me are left with what they are owed with nothing.
Yeah, oh, well, happy.
The last time we met up with Cervantes was November. He was celebrating the news that the Ontario Ministry of Labour ordered a Domino's franchise to pay him more than $25,000 in lost wages and benefits. He filed a claim with the ministry, arguing he was doing the work of an employee for more than 4 years, but was being paid as an independent contractor, making less than minimum wage. The ministry agreed. The directors of the franchise paid Cervantes about $6,000. The rest has to be paid by the corporation itself. The problem is, it doesn't exist anymore.
What we know from the research that Simon and I have done is that on January 3rd of 2019, the corporation dissolves, so the entity that owes the money is no longer there.
These labor lawyers are working to help Cervantes. They showed us documents that prove the business was sold last August, and 2 months after being ordered to pay Cervantes, the numbered corporation behind the franchise folded.
We don't know who the new buyer is or what the terms are, so we can't say for sure. But it looks suspiciously like it changed hand to avoid paying this liability, and we believe that it happens fairly commonly in these situations in order to avoid these awards.
We reached Raghu Arunagirnathan, one of the 2 directors of that dissolved corporation, over the phone.
Only thing I can tell you, whatever the ministry asked us to pay, we cleared it. Thank you.
He declined to answer when CBC Toronto asked him about the remaining $19,000 Cervantes is still owed. If he ever gets that money, Cervantes says he'd spend it on his 4 kids.
I will be able to tell to my kids, hey kids, listen, remember what I was promising you? Well, now I can do that for you. But meanwhile, nothing.
The Ministry of Finance says, quote, it makes every effort to recover amounts owed, but wouldn't tell us how exactly it does that when a company's been dissolved. Domino's Canada told CBC Toronto last November that the franchise would fully comply with the order. When we contacted Domino's headquarters this time, no one responded. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Families of loved ones living at a Toronto seniors residence are scrambling tonight to find new homes for them. Last week, they were notified Davenhill Living on Yonge, just south of the Rosedale subway station, would be closing by the end of the year. The building's owners sold it. Now there's growing concern the site will become another condo. Ali Chasson has more.
It's a nice view there. It's a very nice place.
I bet you this view is really nice in the fall.
Yeah, it is.
Sigrid Rico has called Davenhill home for 8 years now. Krista found it to be the perfect fit for her mother.
There is a nurse on call here 24/7, so I have a great deal of comfort, but that's all gone now.
Last week, the building's 150 residents were notified that the Davenhill building would close by the end of the year. Its non-profit owners sold it.
Ripped the rug out from my mother's feet. I don't think she can take another big change.
I am 96 years old.
It was sold back in May to a numbered company. Not much is known about the client behind the purchase or their intention, but it is connected to a real estate development lawyer who refused to be interviewed or provide a statement to CBC News. Davenhill Living spokesperson said it was sold because they could no longer afford to run it, saying they, quote, faced a choice whether to close the facility on their own terms or whether to wait until an event outside our control and financial constraints forced us to close with immediate effect and no lead time for our residents to find a new home.
Are there any development proposals for that site?
Well, we haven't heard of any development proposals, at least no applications have come into the city.
Area Councillor Mike Layton says even if it does become a condo or converted into regular rentals, there's not much the city can do.
It's not that the residents couldn't stay. They have rights under the RTA, or some of them would if they had a standalone unit, but they would then have to provide for their own care.
Management has staffed a transition team to help families find suitable assisted living for their loved ones.
The operator has done everything that is required of them by law to go about relocating these people from their homes.
I don't know how the people who did this can live with themselves or sleep at night. And I sure hope their parents don't end up in a situation like this.
Ali Chasson, CBC News, Toronto.
There's a live look at our city skyline tonight. We had a beautiful warm start to the week, but beware, the humidity is set to return. Colette is back after the break with your extended forecast. Stay with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. breaking some records tonight at the MLB Home Run Derby. He hit 29 balls out of the park in the first round, setting a new record. Then another 29 balls in this second round, tying a record. It looked like he was safe to advance until LA's Jock Henderson matched that feat himself. That led to several epic swing-offs. To settle things, Guerrero eventually taking it with a total of 40 second-round home runs, another record there. Then in the final against Pete Alonso, he hit another 22, a total of 91 home runs. That actually wasn't enough to win. Alonso would take the final route. Vlad was tired. Oh, so close to becoming the youngest player and the first Blue Jay to win the Home Run Derby. There's always next year. And there's always next year for Milos Raonic. He's out at Wimbledon after squandering a two-set lead over Guido Pella. He'd win the first set 6-3 and was in complete control with his perfect forehand winner. But then Pella started getting some breaks. He would go on and win the next two sets, forcing a final fifth set. Raonic runs out of steam, and Pella takes the final set after nearly 4 hours on the court. Colette is back with her extended forecast. We had a pleasant summer day today, but the humidity is going to be making a return.
It will make a return by about midweek, Mike. So tomorrow the temperatures start to climb, but in terms of the moisture content in the air, that's not really starting to come up till we get a little bit closer towards midweek, Wednesday, Thursday. You'll notice it getting stickier and stickier. Just to point out, the average high at this time of year, we were just a tiny bit below that, but very similar for our daytime high today, and our lows right around that as well in terms of being seasonal. It's just that we've had some warmer air in place, and we're going to go right back to some of that warmer air. The outlook What outlook, right? Not much to see here as we take you through tonight into tomorrow. Clearer conditions due to that ridge of high pressure that's in place. It isn't until we start to get towards Wednesday we'll see more clouds kind of building in here and getting into more of a mix, especially later in the day. And then we get into that chance of seeing some scattered showers coming back through the GTA. In fact, starting through southwestern Ontario on through towards eastern Ontario, and that's more so through the day on Thursday. But then even after that, we'll get a few more dry days coming right back at us. So it's really quite nice in the short term, but even pretty nice into the long term as well. Overnight tonight, some clear conditions for you. Southwestern Ontario, 15 degrees for the overnight lows all around. And then highs tomorrow creeping back up around 30, 31 degrees with all kinds of sunshine there. For the GTA, also just a little bit, a few degrees warmer than today. Overnight tonight, 15. So tomorrow's highs, we're putting those at 29 for the most part. A little bit milder, perhaps Hamilton, you may pop up to 30, 31 or so towards St. Catharines. But it's into the afternoon, by the way, the winds will kind of turn back towards the south for you. But as we look ahead after that Wednesday, humidity climbing up there. So the Humidex, I put that in at 35, although the thermometer 31. Thursday, some scattered showers, the odd thunderstorm potential there, but only 26 for the high. However, feeling like 36, so a lot of moisture in the air that day. Friday dries out a little bit, really nice. It's late Saturday. I see the risk of getting a few isolated showers or thunderstorms coming back in, but so far, most of Saturday looking pretty good, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
We have some incredible footage to show you of an image that showed up on a radar screen. Now, this may look like one of Colette's weather maps showing a storm making its way across Lake Erie there. Well, that's a storm, all right, but it's not weather related. That is a storm of bugs. Billions of fish flies crossing Lake Erie towards Ohio. A research assistant at the University of Notre Dame posted it last week. Now, right now, fish flies are causing their annual disturbance. Look at how these things are. annual disturbance in southwestern Ontario. Residents in Lakeshore, that's just north of Leamington, they're even being warned against tampering with the street lights in the town. Fish flies are attracted to the lights, and apparently some people have tried shutting them off at night to try to discourage them. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with them here in the GTA, at least I hope. I thought the black flies or horse flies I saw last week were bad enough. That's it for our newscast tonight. I'll have your next local newscast tomorrow night at 6 and again at 11. Good night.